Night came, but Adaora did not know where she was going. The rain had stopped, but her clothes were still soaked. Her slippers slapped weakly against the wet road as she walked without direction, without strength, and without hope. Lagos lights flashed around her, bright and loud, but inside her, everything felt dark and quiet. She had failed again. The city had chewed her, spat her out, and watched her stand there helpless. No money, no work, no home she could call her own. Even her aunt had grown tired of her. Adaora's chest felt tight, as if something heavy was sitting on her heart. She stopped walking when she heard singing. Soft, slow, different from the noise of the street. At first, she thought she was imagining it. But then she followed the sound and found herself standing in front of a small church tucked between two old buildings. The paint on the walls was peeling, the signboard crooked, and the generator humming softly outside. It wasn't beautiful, it wasn't big, but something about it felt warm. Adaora hesitated. She looked down at her wet clothes, her tangled hair, her swollen eyes. "I don't belong here," she whispered to herself. Still, she pushed the door open. The moment she stepped inside, something shifted. The air felt different. Calmer, thicker, safer. Her shoulders dropped, and before she could stop herself, tears began to fall. Not the quiet tears she had been shedding all night, but deep, painful sobs that shook her entire body. She sank into the last bench. As the worship continued, her mind betrayed her. She saw herself again as that stubborn village girl, running after a goat, ignoring her mother's warnings. She saw the sacred pot breaking, the angry faces of villagers, the fear, the shame. She saw herself arriving in Lagos, wide-eyed and hopeful. She saw the neon lights, the runs girls, the danger, the burning wig, the laughter, the rain. Every mistake came back to her like a movie she could not pause. "God," she cried silently, gripping the bench, "if you can still see me, please don't pass me by." Then the singing stopped. The pastor stepped forward slowly. He hadn't been looking at Adaora before, but suddenly, his eyes locked onto hers. She felt exposed. "Someone here came in very tired," the pastor said calmly. Adaora froze. "Your body is here," he continued, "but your spirit has been fighting battles that people don't know about." Her breath caught. "You ran from a place of pain into another pain," he said. "You tried different paths, but none worked because they were never meant for you." Adaora began to shake. The pastor raised his voice slightly. "Someone tried to ruin your destiny," he declared. "They pushed you into places you were not prepared for. But hear me clearly." The entire church fell silent. "Your journey is just starting." Adaora broke down completely. She didn't know how she ended up at the altar. She only knew that when hands were placed on her head, a strange warmth flowed through her body. The fear she had been carrying loosened its grip. The weight on her chest began to lift. For the first time since she left her village, Adaora felt peace. But as the service ended and people began to leave, the pastor called her aside. "Your story is not over," he told her gently. "What comes next will test you even more." Adaora nodded slowly. Outside, the street looked the same. Lagos was still loud, still harsh, but inside her, something had shifted. And just as she stepped into the night, unsure of what tomorrow would bring, she heard footsteps behind her. She turned.